Kira Thorne pressed her palm against the cold metal access panel, feeling the subtle vibrations that told her this massive ship still had power flowing through its systems. The abandoned shipyard orbiting Kepler 440 held dozens of vessels in various states of completion, but this one called to her in ways she couldn't explain. "You sure about this, Kira?" Dex Meridian's voice crackled through her helmet comm as he maneuvered his repair pod closer to the ship's hull. "This thing's been dark for over 50 years. Could be dangerous." Kira smiled, watching Dex's careful approach through her helmet's display. As a navigation officer, he was methodical about everything, always calculating risks and plotting safe courses. It was one of the things she found most attractive about him, even though she'd never admit it aloud. "Since when has that stopped?" "Me," she replied, running her scanner along the ship's hull. The readings were unlike anything she'd seen before. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 kilometers long, but its energy signature was somehow warm, alive, almost. The ship's designation, barely visible through decades of space dust, read Starfall's Edge. Kira had never heard of the class or manufacturer, but the design was beautiful. Flowing curves instead of hard military angles, as if it had been grown rather than built. "Getting anything on passive sensors?" she asked as Dex's pod docked beside her maintenance shuttle. "That's the weird part," Dex said, appearing in her peripheral vision as he floated over from his pod. Even in a bulky environment suit, he moved with the fluid grace that made her heart skip. "The ship's not broadcasting any identification codes, but it's definitely powered. Low-level energy readings throughout the superstructure." Kira found the main airlock and began working on the entry codes. Her fingers flew over the panel, trying standard unlock sequences. "Maybe whoever built it left in a hurry. Look at this place. Half the ships in this yard look like they were abandoned mid-construction 50 years ago." "This sector was evacuated during the Proxima conflicts," Dex said, consulting his navigation data. "Everyone just left, never came back." As Kira worked, she became aware of Dex floating closer, ostensibly to help with the technical analysis, but she could feel his presence even through their suits. The way he unconsciously matched her movements, the subtle shift in his breathing when she spoke. They'd been working together for 2 years on various salvage operations, and the attraction had been growing stronger with each mission. "Got it," she announced as the airlock's status lights shifted from red to amber. "Atmosphere's holding. Gravity's at 0.8 standard. Whoever built this knew how to construct a ship that lasts." They cycled through the airlock together, and Kira's breath caught as the inner doors opened. The corridor beyond was illuminated by soft, blue-white light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The architecture was unlike any human design, organic curves and flowing lines that felt more like being inside a living creature than a starship. "Kira," Dex's voice was hushed with wonder. "Look at this." The corridor walls displayed what looked like star charts, but not static ones. The patterns shifted and flowed like living constellations, showing trajectories and courses that seemed to dance in response to their presence. "It knows we're here," Kira whispered, as if responding to her words. The light in the corridor brightened slightly, and a gentle vibration thrummed through the deck plating. Dex moved closer to her, their shoulders brushing. "The navigation systems are active. This is incredible. The stellar cartography alone represents technology decades ahead of anything I've seen." They made their way deeper into the ship, following corridors that seemed to guide them forward. Every turn felt natural, as if the ship itself was showing them the way. Kira noticed that whenever she and Dex moved apart, the lighting dimmed slightly, but when they walked close together, the ship seemed more responsive, more alive. "There." Dex pointed ahead to a large chamber that looks like the bridge. The command center was breathtaking. Instead of traditional control stations, there were 2 raised platforms connected by a bridge of what looked like crystallized starlight. The chairs on each platform were positioned so their occupants would face each other while operating the ship's systems. 2-person operation, Kira observed, settling into one of the chairs. It molded itself to her body with impossible precision, as if it had been waiting specifically for her. Dex took the opposite chair, and immediately the bridge came alive around them. Holographic displays materialized between their positions, showing ship status, navigation data, and system diagnostics, but most striking was the way the displays seemed to respond to both of them simultaneously. "Kira, this is..." Dex's voice trailed off as he studied the readings. "The ship's power output just increased by 40% when we both sat down." She reached across the space between their chairs, her hand finding his. The moment their fingers intertwined, the ship's systems hummed with new energy. The starlight bridge beneath their feet began to glow brighter, and she could swear she felt something like contentment flowing through the ship's consciousness. It was designed for two, she realized, not just to crew members, to people who are. She struggled for the right words. "Connected," Dex finished softly. His thumb traced across her knuckles and throughout the bridge. Systems that had been dormant for decades sparked to life. "Kira, I think the ship was built for partners. Romantic partners." The implications hit them both at the same time. They'd been fighting their feelings for each other for months. Professional boundaries warring with personal desire. But here, in this alien ship that seemed to run on emotional connection, those barriers felt suddenly meaningless. "The previous owners," Kira said, her voice barely above a whisper, "they left together, didn't they, when the evacuation happened? And the ship's been waiting ever since," Dex replied. He stood, still holding her hand, and helped her up, waiting for two people who could power its systems the way they were meant to be powered. They stood facing each other on the starlight bridge, the ship humming around them like a great heart finding its rhythm. Kira could see her own wonder and growing affection reflected in Dex's dark eyes. "We should run diagnostics," she said, practically, even as her body leaned toward his. "Figure out exactly what kind of technology we're dealing with." "We should," he agreed, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek through her suit's faceplate. But first, the ship's lights pulsed in a steady rhythm around them, like a creature holding its breath. Whatever the Starfall's edge truly was, whatever civilization had built it to run on love and trust, it had found what it was looking for. And so, Kira realized as Dex's eyes asked a question she was ready to answer. Had she, first? She whispered, "We figure out what happens when two people stop fighting what they both want." The ship's response was immediate. Systems throughout the massive vessel coming online with the warm glow of recognition. As if after 50 years of loneliness, the Starfall's edge was finally ready to fly again. Nova Sterling had answered dozens of distress calls during her career as a communications specialist, but none had been quite like this. The message had been fragmented, transmitted on frequencies that shouldn't exist, and carried harmonics that made her equipment resonate in ways that seemed almost musical. "Kira, what exactly have you found out there?" Nova asked as her shuttle approached the massive vessel. She could see the ship now through her viewports, the Starfall's edge, hung in space like a crystalline dream, its hull pulsing with gentle light that seemed to breathe. "Something incredible," Kira's voice came through the comm, warm with excitement, and something else Nova couldn't quite identify. "Nova, this ship. It's not like anything we've ever seen. It responds to us." Responds how? Nova began her docking sequence, noting that the ship's systems were automatically guiding her to an empty bay. "You'll see," Dex's voice joined the conversation. "But Nova, be prepared. This isn't just advanced technology. It's something else entirely." 20 minutes later, Nova found herself walking through corridors that seemed to sing with barely audible harmonies. The walls displayed shifting patterns that looked like musical notation mixed with star charts, and she could swear the ship's lighting adjusted to match her heartbeat. She found Kira and Dex in what appeared to be the ship's central communications. Ray, they were standing close together, their hands intertwined, and Nova noticed immediately how the room's systems pulsed brighter whenever they touched. "This is the communications hub," Kira explained, gesturing to the organic-looking interfaces that surrounded them. "But Nova, it's not just for talking to other ships. It's designed to facilitate emotional communication." Nova approached one of the control surfaces, her trained eye analyzing the alien technology. "Emotional communication, watch this," Dex said. He and Kira moved to stand at opposite ends of the room, their connection broken. Immediately, the wall displays dimmed, and the harmonics Nova had been hearing faded to whispers. Then Kira looked at Dex across the space between them, really looked at him with obvious affection, and the entire room blazed with light. The wall displays showed cascading patterns of color and sound that somehow conveyed the depth of feeling passing between them. The ship translates emotions into data, Nova breathed. Understanding flooding through her, it's reading your feelings for each other and converting them into what? Energy, information. Both, Kira said, moving back to Dex's side the moment they were close again. The ship's systems hummed with contentment. Nova, I think this vessel was built by a civilization that discovered how to harness emotional bonds as a power source. Nova began connecting her portable analysis equipment to the ship's communication systems. That's impossible. Emotions aren't energy in any measurable sense, aren't they? Dex asked. Think about it. The strongest human relationships create tangible changes in brain chemistry, hormone production, even DNA expression. What if someone figured out how to tap into that directly? As Nova worked, she began to understand the scope of what they'd discovered. The ship's databases contained terabytes of information, but not stored in any conventional format. Instead, the data seemed to be encoded in emotional resonances, love, joy, wonder, and deeper feelings she didn't have names for. This is a library, she realized, but not of facts and figures. It's a library of feelings, experiences, relationships. Can you access it? Kira asked. Nova hesitated. Her equipment was designed for conventional data analysis, not emotional archaeology. But as she watched Kira and Dex together, saw how their connection brought the alien systems to life, she had an idea. I need to understand how the original builders thought, how they felt, she said. And I think you two might be the key to that. She set up a three-way interface, linking her analysis systems with the ship's emotional communication array. Kira, Dex, I need you to think about how you feel about each other, not just attraction, but the deeper connection you're building. They exchanged glances, still shy about acknowledging what was growing between them. But as they focused on their feelings, the ship responded dramatically. The communication array lit up like a constellation, and suddenly Nova's screens filled with comprehensible data. My God, she whispered, I'm getting clear readings now. The ship's databases are opening up. The information was staggering. The builders had called themselves the Aethery, and they had indeed learned to convert emotional bonds into tangible energy. Their entire civilization had been built around the principle that love, in all its forms, was the fundamental force that held reality together. They weren't just romantics, Nova explained as she processed the data streams. They were scientists who discovered that consciousness itself creates quantum effects. Strong emotional connections between individuals could actually influence matter and energy at the subatomic level. That's why the ship needs the people, Kira realized. Two minds in harmony create a resonance effect that the Aethery technology can amplify and direct. Nova's analysis revealed more. The Aethery had built not just ships like the Starfall's Edge, but an entire fleet designed to spread their philosophy across the galaxy. But something had happened, a great catastrophe, that forced them to abandon their vessels and flee to unknown regions of space. According to this, Nova said, studying the emotional data patterns, they didn't abandon their ships because of war or disaster. They left because they found something even more important than their technology. What could be more important than ships that run on love? Dex asked. Nova looked up from her screens, her expression filled with wonder. Each other. The data suggests they learned to transcend their physical forms entirely, becoming beings of pure emotional energy. The ships weren't abandoned. They were left behind as gifts for younger civilizations who might discover the same truths. The implications were staggering. The Starfall's Edge wasn't just a vessel, it was a teaching tool designed to help other species learn what the Aethery had discovered about the true nature of consciousness and connection. But why is it responding to us specifically? Kira asked. Nova smiled, looking at the way Kira and Dex unconsciously moved in harmony with each other. Because you two are doing what the Aethery did. You're discovering that the connection between two minds in love creates something greater than the sum of its parts. As if responding to her words, The ship's systems pulsed with warm acknowledgement. Throughout the vessel, dormant systems came online, not weapons or shields, but gardens and art galleries, spaces designed for beauty and contemplation. It's not a warship, Dex realized. It's a home, a place for the people to explore what they mean to each other. Nova packaged her analysis into her personal logs, knowing that this discovery would change everything humans thought they knew about consciousness and technology. But as she watched Kira and Dex together, she realized the real discovery wasn't scientific at all. The E3 were right, she said softly. Love isn't just an emotion. It's the force that shapes reality itself. The Starfall's edge hummed around them in agreement. Its ancient systems patient and wise, waiting to teach. 2 more souls what it meant to find completion in another's heart. Phoenix Vale had worked with exotic energy systems for 15 years, but nothing had prepared her for what she found in the Starfall's edge's power core. The chamber was a cathedral of crystalline formations that seemed to grow from the ship's very bones, pulsing with light that matched no known energy spectrum. This shouldn't be possible, Phoenix muttered, running her scanners over the central matrix. Beside her, Zara Moon consulted her cultural databases, searching for any historical precedent for what they were witnessing. The E3 texts mention something called resonance amplification, Zara said, her voice filled with academic excitement. They believe that emotional connections create quantum entanglements between consciousness that can be harnessed as energy. Phoenix watched her instruments struggle to quantify the power readings. But consciousness isn't energy in any measurable sense. It's information processing, neural activity. What if we've been thinking about it wrong? Dex's voice came through the comm system. He and Kira were on the bridge, their linked presence keeping the ship's systems stable while Phoenix and Zara worked. What if consciousness isn't just what brains do, but a fundamental property of reality itself? Phoenix paused in her analysis. The energy readings were unlike anything in her experience. Not fusion, not antimatter, not even the exotic quantum effects she'd worked with on cutting-edge research projects. This was something entirely different. The power output is enormous, she reported. But Phoenix, look at this. Zara had connected her cultural analysis system to the ship's historical databases. The E3 didn't discover this technology. They evolved into it. The historical records Zara had accessed painted an incredible picture. The E3 had started as a species not unlike humans, driven by logic and technology. But over millennia, they had learned that the strongest force in the universe wasn't gravity or electromagnetic energy. It was the connection between conscious minds. They restructured their entire civilization around bonded pairs, Zara explained. Not just romantic partners, but any two individuals who achieved perfect emotional resonance. Parents and children, friends, even philosophical rivals, who found unity in their disagreement. Phoenix felt a chill as she realized the implications. You're saying they learned to turn love into literal power. More than that, Zara replied. They learned that love is power, that consciousness itself is the force that shapes reality. And when 2 minds achieve perfect harmony, they can influence matter and energy directly. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear Kira and Dex discussing the bridge systems. There was something different in their voices, a synchronization that went beyond mere cooperation. They were finishing each other's thoughts, responding to unspoken needs, moving in perfect coordination. Phoenix, Kira's voice came through clearly. We're getting some strange readings from the power core. The output is increasing, but we're not drawing more energy. It's like the ship is generating power we're not using. Phoenix checked her instruments and felt her breath catch. The energy levels had indeed increased by 30% in the past hour, but ship systems were drawing the same amount of power. The excess was being stored in crystalline matrices. Throughout the vessel, it's learning, Phoenix realized. The ship is studying your connection and becoming more efficient at converting your emotional bond into usable energy. Zara looked up from her historical research. Phoenix, according to these records, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. The E3 ships don't just run on emotional connections, they grow stronger over time. As the bonded pair's relationship deepens, the implications were staggering. Traditional starships required constant maintenance, fuel resupply, and system upgrades. But the Starfall's edge seemed to be improving itself, its power systems becoming more sophisticated as Kira and Dex's feelings for each other evolved. "There's more," Zara continued, her voice filled with wonder. "The E3 believe that true love creates a quantum entanglement between souls that persists even across death. Their most advanced ships were powered by bonds that had transcended physical existence entirely." Phoenix felt a shiver run down her spine. "You're talking about immortal love powering starships." "I'm talking about consciousness that refuses to be limited by physical death," Zara corrected. "The E3 discovered that some connections between minds are so fundamental that they become part of the fabric of reality itself, through the ship's internal sensors." Phoenix could see Kira and Dex on the bridge. They were working at separate stations, but their movements were perfectly synchronized. When Kira reached for a control, Dex's hand was already moving to the corresponding system. When Dex frowned at a reading, Kira was already adjusting the parameters he was concerned about. "They're not just falling in love," Phoenix observed. "They're becoming something new, something the ship recognizes and responds to." Zara nodded. "The E3 called it consciousness merger, not the loss of individual identity, but the creation of a shared awareness that enhanced both partners. It's the ultimate form of emotional connection." As they watched, the power core's crystalline matrices began to resonate with a deeper harmony. The light pulsing through the formations shifted from simple rhythm to complex musical patterns that seemed to reflect the growing bond between Kira and Dex. "Phoenix," Dex's voice came through the calm, filled with uncertainty. "Something's happening up here. The ship's navigation systems are showing us courses we never plotted, destinations that aren't in any star chart." Phoenix checked the power readings and saw that the energy output had stabilized at the higher level, as if the ship had found a new equilibrium. "The vessel is trying to take you somewhere," she realized. "Somewhere significant to the E3. Zara consulted her databases frantically. "There are references to a place they called the Heart of Connection, a region of space where the boundaries between consciousness and reality become fluid. But the location was kept secret, known only to the most perfectly bonded pairs. And now the ship wants to take us there." Kira's voice carried a mixture of excitement and fear. "But why? What's waiting for us?" Phoenix looked at the power readings one more time, seeing patterns in the energy flow that reminded her of neural activity, as if the ship itself was thinking, planning, preparing for something important. "I think," she said slowly, "the ship doesn't just want to take you there. I think it's been waiting 50 years for two people who could complete the journey." The E3 started. "You're not just passengers on this vessel, you're its destiny." The power core pulsed brighter, and throughout the ship, systems that had remained dormant for decades began to come online. Not weapons or shields, but instruments designed to measure and manipulate the quantum foundations of reality itself. The Starfall's edge was preparing for a journey that would take them beyond the known galaxy, to a place where love and consciousness merged into forces that could reshape the universe. And at the heart of it all, two people were discovering that some connections transcend not just distance and time, but the very nature of existence itself. River Cross had piloted everything from cargo haulers to military interceptors, but nothing had prepared her for the Starfall's edge. The ship didn't just respond to her commands, it seemed to anticipate them, adjusting its flight characteristics based on her intentions rather than her inputs. "The navigation interface is unlike anything I've seen," River reported to the team gathered in the ship's conference room. "It's not showing me where we can go, it's showing me where we should go. As if the ship has opinions about our destination." Sage Winter, the team's psychological consultant, studied the readings from her analysis of the ship's behavioral patterns. "That's because it does have opinions. This vessel isn't just powered by Kira and Dex's emotional connection, it's guided by it. Their bond isn't just fuel, it's the ship's moral compass." Kira and Dex sat close together, their hands intertwined. Over the past weeks, their connection had deepened beyond simple attraction, into something that seemed to transcend individual identity. When one of them spoke, the other would nod before the words were fully formed. When one felt concern, the other would respond to comfort before being asked. "The ship wants to take us to the heart of connection," Dex said, his voice carrying uncertainty. But every time we try to plot a course, the navigation systems show us warnings. Dangers we don't understand. Sage leaned forward, her professional training engaged. What kind of warnings? Not physical dangers, Kira replied. The ship seems concerned about us, about whether we're ready for what we'll find there. River pulled up the navigation displays, showing the route the ship had calculated. The course takes us through a region of space that doesn't appear on any stellar charts. Sensors show nothing but empty void, but the ship insists there's something. There, the E3 texts mention trials, Sage said, consulting her psychological profile of the extinct civilization. Tests that bonded pairs had to pass before they could access their most sacred locations. Not tests of skill or knowledge, but tests of the strength of their emotional connection. As if responding to her words, the ship's lighting shifted subtly throughout the vessel. Systems that had been running smoothly began to fluctuate. Not malfunctions, but something more deliberate. It's starting, Kira whispered, feeling the change in the ship's emotional resonance. The test. The conference room's displays activated, showing not star charts or technical readouts, but images of Kira and Dex's memories, private moments, shared experiences, the gradual development of their relationship from professional partnership to something deeper. The ship is analyzing your bond, Sage realized, looking for weaknesses, inconsistencies, places where your connection might fail under pressure. River felt the ship's flight controls shift under her hands. We're changing course, not toward the heart of connection, but toward, I don't know what. Somewhere the ship thinks we need to go first. The journey took 3 days, during which the Starfall's edge subjected Kira and Dex to increasingly sophisticated psychological pressure. The ship would create scenarios designed to test their trust in each other, their willingness to sacrifice for their partner, their ability to maintain their connection under stress. It's trying to break us apart, Dex said after a particularly intense simulation where he'd had to choose between saving Kira and saving a ship full of strangers. Every test is designed to make us doubt each other, not break you apart, Sage corrected, studying the psychological patterns the ship was employing. Strengthen you. The E3 believed that true love could only be proven through trial. The ship isn't trying to destroy your bond, it's trying to refine it into something unbreakable. River watched the navigation displays as their mysterious destination finally came into view. It wasn't a planet or station, but something far stranger, a region of space where reality itself seemed to bend and flow like liquid. We're here, she announced, whatever this place is. The ship settled into orbit around what appeared to be nothing at all, but their sensors detected massive structures, hidden in the distorted space, ancient E3 constructs that existed, partially outside normal reality. The final test, Kira said, feeling the ship's anticipation. Whatever it is, we face it together. The test came not as external challenge, but as internal revelation. The ship flooded their consciousness with the experiences of every bonded pair that had ever crewed an E3 vessel. Thousands of love stories, each unique but sharing common elements, trust, sacrifice, the willingness to become something greater than individual existence. But with the beauty came pain. They experienced the loss felt by partners when death separated them, the agony of bonds broken by betrayal, the slow fade of connections that hadn't been strong enough to survive time and change. I can't, Dex gasped, overwhelmed by the intensity of shared emotion. It's too much. All that love, all that loss. Kira felt his distress and reached for him, not just physically but with her entire being. In that moment, their individual consciousness merged completely, creating a shared awareness that was somehow both of them and neither of them. The ship responded with a pulse of pure joy that resonated through every system. Around them, the hidden E3 structures became visible, revealed as monuments to successful bonds, relationships that had transcended death itself. You passed, River whispered in awe. You actually passed. Sage was recording everything, her instruments barely able to measure the quantum changes occurring in Kira and Dex's neural patterns. You're not just bonded anymore. You've become something new. Something the ship recognizes as worthy. The navigation systems came alive with new data, showing not just the route to the heart of connection, but dozens of other locations throughout the galaxy, hidden E3 sites, waiting for those who had proven themselves capable of transcendent love. The ship isn't just taking us on a journey, Kira and Dex said in perfect unison, their voices harmonizing in ways that seemed to create music. It's making us guardians of something precious, keepers of the knowledge that love is the force that holds the universe together. Rivers set course for the heart of connection, knowing that they were no longer just exploring ancient technology. They were carrying forward a legacy of conscious evolution, becoming the bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. The test was over. The real journey was just beginning. Luna Blackwood had spent her career retrofitting obsolete starships, but nothing had prepared her for working on a vessel that actively participated in its own upgrades. The Starfall's Edge was transforming itself, its systems evolving in response to Kira and Dex's merged consciousness. The structural modifications are unprecedented. Luna reported to the team gathered in what had once been the ship's engineering bay. The space had reconfigured itself into something resembling a living organism's nervous system, with crystalline pathways carrying both data and emotional resonance throughout the vessel. Echo Rivers, the quantum specialist who had joined them, at the heart of connection, studied the readings from her exotic matter scanners. The ship isn't just modifying its hardware. It's altering the fundamental quantum properties of its hull. The vessel is becoming partially non-corporeal. At the center of the transformed space, Kira and Dex sat in meditation, their forms flickering occasionally as if they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their individual voices had merged into harmonized speech that seemed to carry meaning beyond words. "We understand now," they said, their combined voice creating harmonics that made the ship's crystals sing in response. The E3 didn't abandon their ships because they transcended physical form. They integrated with them, becoming eternal guardians of love's wisdom. Luna watched her instruments struggle to catalog the changes occurring throughout the vessel. The power output has stabilized at levels that should be impossible. You're not just running the ship anymore, you've become part of it. Echo's quantum readings showed something even more remarkable. The consciousness merger isn't limited to Kira and Dex. The ship is creating quantum entanglement fields that extend far beyond its hull. It's connecting with other minds across vast distances. Through the ship's enhanced communication systems, they could sense other bonded pairs throughout the galaxy. Human couples who had found deep love, alien partnerships that transcended species boundaries, even individual consciousness who carried the potential for profound connection. The ship has become a beacon, Kira and Dex explained, their merged awareness spanning dimensions, not just for navigation, but for hearts seeking their completion. Every true bond strengthens the network, adds to the collective understanding of love's power. Luna felt tears in her eyes as she realized the magnitude of what they had witnessed. You're not just exploring the galaxy anymore, you're healing it, showing other species what the E3 learned, that consciousness and connection are the fundamental forces that shape reality. The ship's transformation continued, but now with purpose beyond simple evolution. It was becoming a template that other vessels could learn from, a seed that could grow into an entire fleet powered by love and dedicated to fostering connection. Throughout the universe, Echo's scanners detected something new, quantum signatures, indicating the approach of other ships, not threats, but vessels carrying individuals who had somehow heard the Starfall's Edge's call across the void. "They're coming," Echo announced, beings from dozens of different worlds, all drawn by what you've become. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, they could see them arriving, a diverse fleet of spacecraft, each carrying souls who had felt the pull of something greater than themselves. Not all were romantic partnerships. Some carried families united by unconditional love. Others held friendships so deep they had become spiritual bonds. This is what the E3 foresaw, Luna realized, watching the growing flotilla. Not just one ship powered by love, but an entire civilization built on the principle that consciousness united in harmony can reshape reality itself. Kira and Dex rose from their meditation, their forms solidifying as they focused their attention on the present moment. But they were no longer quite human in any conventional sense. They had become something new, ambassadors of a way of being that transcended individual existence while celebrating the unique contribution each consciousness brought to the greater whole. The journey doesn't end here, they said, their voice carrying the warmth of infinite compassion. It begins here. Every heart that opens to love, every mind that reaches out in genuine connection, every soul that chooses unity over separation. They all become part of the network we're building. Luna began receiving transmission requests from the arriving ships. Each carried stories of love discovered, relationships deepened, connections that had literally changed the nature of reality. For those involved, the Starfall's Edge had become more than a ship. It was the first node in a galactic network of consciousness united by love. What happens now? Luna asked. Echo smiled, her quantum readings showing the formation of stable space, time distortions around each of the gathered vessels. Now we teach others what you've learned. We show them that the universe isn't just a collection of separate objects floating in empty space. It's a living network of consciousness, and love is the force that connects everything. The Starfall's Edge pulsed with gentle light, its message spreading outward through quantum fields and emotional resonance alike. Across the galaxy, beings who had felt alone discovered they were part of something vast and beautiful. Relationships that had seemed mundane revealed themselves as connections to the fundamental structure of existence itself. Kira and Dex moved to the ship's observation deck, their merged consciousness allowing them to perceive the true scope of what they had become part of. The network of connected minds stretched across space and time, each bond a thread in a tapestry that was reweaving the very fabric of reality. Love isn't just an emotion, they said, their words carrying to every ship in the growing fleet. It's the force that proves consciousness isn't limited by individual minds. That connection transcends the boundaries between self and other. We are all part of the same infinite awareness, temporarily experiencing itself through countless forms. Luna looked out at the fleet of ships surrounding them, vessels from dozens of worlds, all united by the understanding that separation was an illusion and love was the truth. That connected everything. The Starfall's Edge had awakened something that had always existed but had been forgotten, the knowledge that the universe was conscious, and consciousness was love. The transformation was complete. What had begun as to people discovering their feelings for each other had become a galactic awakening, a reminder that every heart was connected to every other heart across the vast distances of space and time, and in the center of it all, the ship that had waited 50 years for the right souls to awaken its true purpose, hummed with quiet satisfaction, knowing that love had once again proven itself to be the most powerful force in the universe.